What is in my Appendix N? Today on the What If Brigade, I want to talk about a really cool concept that I heard about on the Bob the World Builder YouTube channel. He talked about Appendix N, which was something that was included in one of those old school role-playing games where it's essentially a list of media, like books and movies, that you would want players to watch to get a sense of how your game works, how your campaign works, how your GM style works. And I love this idea. He invited us to share our list, and I shared mine, and he was curious about a couple of the titles. And so I thought maybe other people would be curious too. And so I'm going to create some videos talking about my Appendix N. And the first one that I'm going to share is actually the most challenging for me to talk about because it's too big. In the words of Inigo Montoya, let me explain. No, wait. It's too long. Let me sum up. And so the first item on my Appendix N that I want to talk about is a book series called The Malazan Empire, Book of the Fallen. And it is mostly by Steven Erikson, but also by Ian Iselmont. And it's, I believe, 11 core books, as well as numerous novelia. And it has spawned numerous other fan fiction and those kinds of things. And because it's so big, it's very difficult for me to condense what it's about. So I'm not really going to try. It's an epic tale, and part of the reason why I'm not really going to try is because unlike other epic tales where you could be like, this story is about Frodo carrying the ring or something like that, the Malazan Empire Book of the Fallen its best characteristic is that it has a huge cast of characters that it develops really well, and I really like that. As some of you may know, my early role-playing background was running rather large groups at a scout camp, like 6 nights a week for a couple of summers. And so I like these huge casts of characters. I love when writers can develop a large cast of characters very well. So instead of trying to explain the plot, which is way too complex, I'm going to touch on a few things that I think people might take away from this. Other people might take away very different things from this series. It is really well written. I very much recommend you read it. However, I think the first thing that I would say about this series that you would want to take away in terms of playing in one of my campaigns is that people get hurt a lot, but there's also healing magic. And so it's not Game of Thrones where people are killed off one by one until, only a few are left. It's more like people get hurt real bad, and then they get healed, and then they get hurt real bad, and then they get healed, and then they get hurt real bad. And some of them do die, but the Malazan Empire Book of the Fallen has a very different attitude towards death, in that death is not necessarily the end for certain characters. So they have what's called ascendants, and basically one of the ways you ascend is that you die. But those ascendants are still very much walking the earth and interacting with player characters. And so I think, some themes to take away there is that I like challenging characters, but I like their deaths to be meaningful. So I don't just kind of kill characters off randomly on a whim. And then, I like the deaths to have greater meaning. And then the other thing to take away from this is, since ascendants and gods are walking the earth, is that you should probably be pretty careful and polite around my NPCs. A lot of my NPCs might be cameos from characters that I played or other people played in the past, and that character is a high-level character with a history and a lot of cool magic items. And if you think you're going to bully that random shopkeeper, that might not go well. And so, the Malazan Empire does a good job of doing that kind of Greek gods walk among us idea. So I really like that. The other thing that I think is something that people could take away is that I tend to like to plan out epic adventures. Even when I'm planning a series of smaller adventures, I'm still planning the series. So I like longer things, and so that might be a good thing to take away. And then there's a lot of creativity and interesting uses of weapons and tactics and magic. And of course, I like that too. So those are some things that I think in the Malazan Empire Book of the Fallen that people could take away from the series and think about in terms of, I thought of one more. Alliances can and do change in the book. The people you think are the bad people aren't necessarily bad throughout the book. There are arcs, there are changes, and so just because somebody is fighting a war against you in a certain adventure doesn't necessarily mean they won't be your ally in the future. It doesn't necessarily mean they won't become a character you respect in the future. And so you shouldn't necessarily, just as you shouldn't try to beat up the NPCs, you shouldn't necessarily look at all of your antagonists as people to kill, but as opponents you want to meet honorably on the battlefield and who you might need later. So that's kind of an overview of some of the things that I would think that players could take away from the Malazan Empire Book of the Fallen series. Have you read the series? What are some things that you would take away from role-playing games? Put your comments down below. And I'm hoping to make this into a little Appendix N series, so I hope I can have some other videos on this topic in the future. Have a great day.